Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining today, guys. It's good to see you again. Hope you had a lovely week. And yeah, today we're going to do another live stream on Saturday, which is cool. Cecile's going to do the talk today, and she's going to talk. I'm not even 100% sure what she's going to talk about, so it's going to be exciting for me as well to see what we're going to learn about. But yeah, before we get into it, does anyone want to? We're interested to know how you guys have been going with the previous activities. So has anyone done any more, like how are your microgreen people going? Have you guys made any more microgreen people? Sarah? No? Okay. I know it was a while ago. It was quite a few weeks ago now, but it'd be, at this point you could probably do, if you wanted to, you could make more of those and make some more photos on the group and things like that. Has anyone done any...
We weren't there that time.
Okay. That's all good. Essentially what we did was we used little coffee cups and we seeded some microgreens and then we drew faces on the cups. And so it was kind of funny because then the microgreens would grow and it would look like the hair of the person, and then you could give them a haircut.
I can go and get mine, I'll show you.
Yeah. How about alfalfa sprouts? Has anyone done any more alfalfa sprouting? Xanthi? Hey!
I look a bit sad.
Look at that. Yeah, Cecile, yours needs a haircut.
Yeah, or maybe a bit of water so it kind of grows like special hair.
Yeah. Yeah, Xanthi?
So my mum forgot to rinse it twice one day, and she just wants to know if that's bad.
I did that 2 days.
I think it's, I mean, it's just best practice to rinse it as much as possible during the week when you're doing it. It just, like, the more you rinse it, the less likely that, like, a bug might start growing in there. But if you don't rinse it, it's not like the end of the world. Yeah, I think it's fine. It's just only if you don't rinse it at all, that's when it's potentially an issue. Did you see those alfalfa sprouts recently? Are they like new ones? Awesome.
2 days ago.
We did it 3 days ago.
Cool. So have you been doing it? Have you been doing it like regularly since that first session?
No, this is only our second time. We've been meaning to do it a bit more, but we will do that more.
It's all good. Sometimes life gets in the way. But that's so cool to see that you're doing it again. It's such a cool thing to be able to do, alfalfa sprouts. So when you realize how easy it is that you can grow your own. Yeah, so great work for doing it again. That's awesome. Yeah, so maybe I'll pass it over to you, Cecile, now, if you want to get started.
Yeah, can you allow me to share my screen?
Oh, yeah, of course.
2 slides, not too many.
There you go. You can do it now.
Okay, screen share. Okay, so today we're going to continue on exploring the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And today is like it's a good one. It's like it's one that talks about responsible consumption and production. So it's quite broad. Do you have an idea when I say that responsible consumption and production, what does it mean? Do you have a bit of an idea before I go on and talk a bit more about it?
Xanthi?
Can you just please repeat that question again? Sorry.
So
the UN goals, maybe my accent is a bit hard to understand.
I can probably say this title if you want.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, but the question is, does anyone know what responsible consumption and production means? Xanthi?
Does it mean like buying food from good companies that don't like hurt the earth while making money? And yeah,
definitely, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, definitely, that's a big part of it. And it's actually one part of it. So it's actually everything that we make, like those companies, small, big, all the resources that we make to eat, to drive, to build things, to everything. and everything that we consume, this has an impact on the planet Earth. So it's actually looking at like, how do we manage our resources and how do we manage what we produce well, so we actually have a planet Earth in the future, you know? That's kind of like what it is.
Does everyone know what that word consumption or consume means? Sarah, Hillary, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
I think you guys I can't hear you.
That's all good.
Are they on mute? No.
Consumption means, just so we're all on the same page, consumption or to consume means to use something. So right now I'm drinking my coffee, I'm consuming it by drinking it. So it's sort of a way that we use objects or things around us. So when we, and it's very closely tied to making things. So we make things and then we consume them.
Yeah. And that's what we do every day, right? Every day we use things. We eat, we buy, and that has an impact on the earth. So I wanted to know, there is another word that is interesting. Like, have you heard about the word ecological footprint or carbon footprint? Is that something you've seen at school or heard before? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see some nods.
Yeah. Well, can someone share with me what it means? Yeah. Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry. I think it means like so everybody has like a footprint on the earth. Like everybody has can make the earth go good again. So like everybody can. So like it's like you need to try and be like buy reusable products and like grow farming. So it's like that's your footprint. Like it's what you're leaving on the earth, like good stuff and bad stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you guys want to add anything? I don't know if you can hear us, but I'm not sure if we can hear. So I mentioned two things. I mentioned the ecological footprint and the carbon footprint. So there's a little bit of a difference. So when we talk about ecological footprint, and I created a slide, it's pretty much like when we talk about using and consuming and living, we're consuming energy, we're consuming resource, we're eating, and that uses like land, it uses water, it uses energy coming from the sun, coming from coal, etc., etc. So all of this come from the earth. So if the earth wasn't there, we will not be able to live, pretty much. Let's make it simple. And the ecological footprint, it's just like scientists, they did like a really cool thing, which pretty much like they ask questions to people, and depending on the answers, they will tell you, well, the way you live and you consume, what you buy, what you eat, if everyone in the world will live like you, we will need half of the earth or 2 earths. So I don't know if you understand. It kind of depends, because like everyone in the world doesn't live the same way. In Australia, we are in a quite developed country. So, you know, we have a lot of cars. We use a lot of like flight to travel. We eat a lot of food, a lot of diverse food, sometimes food that come from far away. And there's people in other countries that don't have access to the same things we do. So for example,
a lot of electricity as well to heat and cool our homes.
Yeah. Like if we're cold in winter, we just put the heater a lot. When we're too hot, we put the aircon. But in some country, people don't have that. So they use less energy. And scientists, they looked into like, you know, how many Earths we would need if Australians would populate the whole entire world. And it's actually a bit scary, because we will need 3 Earths.
3 Earths.
Yeah, 3 planet Earths if everyone was living like us. And that's a little bit complicated. In a way, we're kind of like lucky that not everyone lives like us, but it actually shows us that to be able to kind of like make sure we're not using too much resources from the earth, and especially using resources in the future, that we actually are be careful with what we do, how we live. You know, do we need to put the heater all day? Let's not forget about turning the lights off, etc., etc. Do you understand?
It's a bit of a funny topic. It's a bit of a big idea to try and understand, but
yeah. But that's a footprint. It's pretty much like the footprint that you have on the earth. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah. Is anyone a bit confused about that and needs a bit more explanation, or do you understand? Do you think? I can't tell with Hillary. She's just got her thumb over the camera.
Yeah.
Like I'm being squished. I feel like a bug and I'm being squished.
You don't understand, or you do understand? Can
All
you
right.
hear us well?
Yeah, I think they can.
Okay, cool. So one example of like resource and things we use is actually food. And one number that I'm going to tell is like 1/3 of all the food that we produced. Sorry. I need to go back to my slide.
There we go.
So 1/3 of all the food that we produce, which equal like 1.3 billions of tons, ends up rotting in the bin of consumers and retailers, or spoiling due to poor transportation and harvesting practices. So if you think about all the food that is being produced in farms around the world, actually 1/3 end up not being used. So what do you think? Do you think that's good, or do you think that's really good? That's not really good.
When you're having dinner, do you finish everything that's on your plate, or do you eat 2/3 of it and then you just throw the rest away? Does anyone do that?
Yeah. So that's
everyone was doing that, and that's essentially what's kind of happening with a lot of our food, right? Only eating only a little bit of it, and then a lot of it is just getting wasted unnecessarily. So
yeah.
It's not. Sarah?
I eat all of it and sometimes maybe extras.
Good.
That's good.
Do you finish your plate?
We want to be healthy with the amount of food that we eat, but it's also about making sure we don't put too much on our plate that we can't eat, and then so we end up wasting stuff. That's not ideal.
Yes, Santi?
So when I don't eat all my food, I just give it to my dog.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. So I actually wanted to kind of like talk about solution to this issue, and you've been giving like a couple of great examples. First, finish your food. Don't over like serve yourself if you know that you're not going to finish it. And if you do waste some food, ideally you have someone else or something else are going to eat the remaining, whether it's like your dog or, some people have pigs, some people have worms, chickens, and sometimes you can just put it in the compost, because otherwise you put it in the bin, and if you put it in the bin, it goes to landfill, and it's actually a complete waste. And on the top of that, it creates another gas. I don't know if you've heard about the gas called methane that goes in the air, and that's actually a gas that contributes to global warming. So again, that's not good. So we want absolutely to avoid waste going to landfill. And I guess there's other solutions that we can put in place to avoid that food being wasted. Do you have any other idea? Any other idea so we don't waste 1/3 of the food we produce? Yeah, Zanti?
If you work in like a supermarket or something, like the fruit and vegetables that look a little weird, we can still put them on the shelves for people to buy still.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I put like a banana on this slide, because I don't know if you remember, I watched a show which was I can't remember the show on ABC about waste. Anyway, they talked about this producer of banana, and they said like the supermarket will only buy the best and the most beautiful banana and the rest will actually go to waste. So it's like, well, how can we make sure that actually all the food that is produced, like maybe people don't want to buy the banana to eat if it doesn't look good, but maybe we need to change our habit to be fine with it. Maybe there's other ways, like sometimes, fruit can be turned into I don't know, cans or all different kind of like produce or even cake, and not being sold directly as a banana. So it's kind of like changing those kind of like practices, whether it's like at the farm, whether it's like the people that pick up the fruit and the vegetable from the farm, whether it's at the supermarket, and whether it's at home. And another solution is actually like, when you've got restaurant or even like bakery, or sometimes you've got big events and they create all this food and actually not everything is being consumed. Well, more and more there's organization called Food Bank. Have you heard about those organizations?
Yes.
So they come and collect food that haven't been consumed. So for example, they go to restaurant or they go to event and they just like collect all the food that are being prepared and not have been used, and they give that food to people who don't have enough money to buy food for their family. So like that, we kind of like avoid that kind of food waste, which is really, really important.
Mm.
All right, any other idea before I go to the next one?
No, I think you can move on.
Okay, so the next one I wanted to talk about, which is I think really important, is plastic, right? It's another like big items in our waste stream. Do you know what's the big issue with plastic? Yeah.
Santi?
One of them is that it goes into the gutters, which goes into the ocean. So the fish eat it and they die. And then even then we eat the fish, and then we have plastic in our bodies too.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's not. That's kind of gross. Really.
Yeah, not great.
Real. Yeah. Good answer though.
What about you,
Hillary?
Yeah? Do you want to say something?
It doesn't decompose.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good.
So plastic, when you think about it, like plastic was actually a good invention. It's very handy, it's very good way to kind of like keep produce fresh. It's a good invention, but we are using it too much in too many situations. And because it's an invention that works really well, it lasts way too long. So it never decomposes. So you're going to find it in oceans, you're going to find it in fish, you're going to find it in human beings. So the problem is like you're finding it everywhere, right? In water, in land, everywhere. There's just plastic everywhere. And I mean, I don't know, it's kind of difficult to realize, but like on average, we use 53 kilo of plastic a year. 53 kilo. Do you know how much you weight? That's kind of like, I weight, I don't know, 70 something. That's only 20 kilo less than, my weight. That's a lot per year. Especially knowing that plastic actually, when you carry it, it doesn't weigh a lot. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is like single-use plastic. So you've got a lot of different type of plastic, but the biggest issue is actually the single-use plastic. Because when you think about it, sometimes you're going to buy your items and you're going to use it only once, and you're going to put it in the bin. And most of the time, that plastic doesn't get recycled. So see how that's a big issue? It uses all this energy, all those people to create that plastic that was only used once, and then it was put in the bin, and then it's going to end up in the ocean or in the landfill and going to last for years. So we see how that's a big issue, and that's something we really want to kind of try to avoid. So do you have any idea about avoiding single plastic? Do you have any example? Single-use plastic, yeah?
Santi?
We can use other materials, but there's also like plastic that is good and can break down as well.
Yeah, you're right. So there's some new types of plastics that are being invented that are biodegradable, that actually do break down. But they still need to be produced, right? And like, what do you think about reusing what we have already? It's kind of good, eh? Or
Yeah.
like you said, like alternatives to plastic. So can anyone think of any other alternatives? Any that we could use for some items? Yep, Xanthi.
We reuse plastic bags, but you can also use bamboo for containers and stuff. I've seen that before.
Yeah, bamboo's an amazing product. Did you know that people now, I've seen people use building houses with bamboo, building like scaffolding and construction with bamboo because it's such an amazing high tensile material and all kinds of crazy things. I've got socks that are made out of bamboo. Hillary?
When we go shopping, we take our own bags.
Yay.
Yeah, very good. That's really good.
Yeah, so that's exactly, so there's a lot of different options we can do. Like, for example, you take your own bag when you go shopping, you refuse to take the bag. You know, for example, you might go to the shopping and you might buy one or two things, maybe you can carry them or put them in your pocket. Yeah, Xanthi, you've got another idea?
Speaking of shops, when me and my mum go to the shops, whenever we go to the butcher, we use our own containers and they put the meat in our own containers.
Yeah.
And same with like fish and chips and stuff.
Yeah, and that's great. And it is exactly that. So it's kind of like you can bring your own container now, you can bring your own like bottle. When people go and get coffee or hot chocolate or anything like that, they can bring their own cup. And all of those things are really, really important. So with single-use plastic, first we want to try to completely avoid it, even with like plastic, but it can be difficult. But as much as you can, you need to plan in advance. So you need to think in advance, and sometimes you need to be a bit annoying, but that's okay. You know, some people might be thinking like, oh, you're annoying, you're changing the way I'm used to do things. But I think this is really important. And it's because more and more people will do the same thing and ask the same thing that we will be able to change things.
Who likes to be annoying? Yeah. Sometimes it's good to be for the right reason. For the right reason.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
Yeah.
We had a really interesting experience. I think it was last year when we went to the chicken and chip shop, which we don't often do, and we took a container, and they were all very surprised, and all the workers came over to like, you know, say, oh wow, that's a good idea and stuff like that. And so we Xanthi made a poster for them to put up in their shop, their fish and chip shop, to say feel free to bring your own containers because we want to, you know, support the world or whatever. And it was a great poster, and we took it there, and we probably didn't buy more chips because we really don't often do it, but then we went back like months and months later and couldn't see the poster and asked about it, and they said, yeah, we've got it up at the back, it's wonderful, whatever. And I sort of said, well, oh, we just thought maybe you'd like to sort of have it in the shop part so people know that you support that. And they said, oh no, we've got all like biodegradable packaging and stuff like that anyway. And we thought that was interesting because of course it takes the factories to make that stuff as well. So just on that point you said before about reusing instead of even making the good stuff isn't great.
It's like, yeah, what's the better option? I don't know. There's probably a better way of explaining that. But yeah, what's the best option? And
the best is not to create waste.
Yeah.
The best is not to create waste. That's simple. Even if it means like, oh, you know, factories that make plastic, they have to close. Like, I'm sorry, there's other option. Like, we have to kind of make difficult choices. But that was a great example. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing that.
And I think yeah, more and more people doing that, like more and more shops, you see that, and it often come from consumers, because then you kind of ask the question, people will ask themselves, oh, can I do that? And then you kind of like change the habits, which is great.
Yep, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah?
So most of our clothes are hand-me-downs. My t-shirt, my pants, and my shoes.
Yes.
My friends.
That's
Nice.
awesome. That's a really, thanks for bringing that one up. That's a really good one. A lot of our clothes can be repurposed and reused.
Yeah.
Does anyone like to go op shopping here? Yeah. I love op shopping. And I get probably most of my clothes have come from secondhand places. And that's really cool because I get some really cool, well-made vintage pieces of clothing that are actually a lot better made than some of the stuff that's made today. It's lasted longer. It's got a lot more character, and it's also better for the environment. So
yeah. Family, friends, and op shop. We love it. That's great. So that was a great conversation. So the other thing that I wanted to mention was like, there's a lot of things that we can actually recycle, and often people don't know. And we need that education about what goes in the bin, because it can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes you're not sure. And unfortunately, there's only 40% of plastic that we consume today that are single use. And often they're not even being recycled. So that's the problem, because they will end up in the ocean. If they're put in the recycling bin, then they're going to be recycled. So we're going to play a little game. So I've selected few things from my bins. And I'm going to ask you if we can recycle them or not, okay? So I guess if you thumbs up for recycling, thumbs down not recycling. And if you got any other idea, so first what about this?
Do you want to tell us what it is?
It's like a toilet paper roll.
Oh, yeah.
Unsure? Yes, we can recycle that. We can recycle. It's just cardboard. There's no plastic, so we could put that in the recycling. And if you've got a cat or a dog, or if you feel crafty, the best is actually to use it to kind of like create something. So you're not even putting in the bin. Another question. It's like kind of beauty, shampoo, bottles, things like that. Do you think that goes in the recycling? So it depends, but when it's kind of like hard plastic like that, you can actually put it in the bin most of the time. So again, those things, sometimes you have to check with your council, but most of the time the kind of thing can go in the recycling bin because it's hard plastic. You don't want to put in the recycling bin something that has liquid in it, so you need to make sure it's empty, but usually you can put that in the bin. Same with aerosol. So often people think that you can put that in the recycling bin, but most of the time you can. And my personal choice, it's not always ideal, but my personal advice would be, if you're not sure, put it in the bin. Put it in the recycling bin. If you're not sure, I will put it in the recycling bin because someone is going to sort it out afterwards. If you put it in the landfill, no, it's all going to end up in landfill or in the water. So that would be my tips. Maybe not everyone will recommend that, but I will say so that. So that's a toothpaste. It's not completely empty, but see this kind of container? Do you know if that goes in the recycling or not? Yeah, that's right. So all the creams, like, often sun creams or some creams come in that kind of contain like packaging. All of this actually cannot be recycled. So, it's important to think about what we use because, that can't be recycled. What about this? It's cardboard with like the lid. Yes, so we can put that in the recycling bin. Same, you can actually put the lid in it because it's hard plastic.
Well, one thing that's important to do is to take the lid off the container.
Yeah,
Can anyone
so
guess
like
why?
that.
because they're two different materials, the lid is a plastic and the carton is a cardboard. So to make it easier for the people in the recycling depot, we take the lid off, and then they're not mixed. It's not mixed recycling. It makes it a lot easier for them to organize the waste, and it's really easy for us to do. Just have to remember to take the lid off when we put it into the recycling bin.
Yeah. So that was great. What about eggs?
Are there eggs in there, or is it just cardboard?
It's actually empty. Yes, you can put that in the recycling. I think you can actually put that in your compost potentially as well. So you actually avoid like putting in the recycling.
Does anyone have any ideas for how you could reuse an egg carton?
Ooh,
Hillary?
lots of ideas.
You could make like for our for Saint. Wait, what's it called again, Sarah? Sorry. The thing that we made these poppies with a reef. Yeah. For Anzac Day. Well, not a rave. Yeah, a rave for Anzac Day.
Ah,
And also we also made these poppies out of cardboard too. Oh yeah, out of egg cartons. We painted them.
Cool.
great. Lots of crafty ideas.
Xanthi, how about you?
So my dog eats very, very fast. So we're going to try and put his food into an egg carton. So, and he's got quite a big snout. So he's just going to be taking like 10 minutes to get one bite, which is
Maybe not that.
not that much. But we need to slow down his eating or he's going to choke. So we're going to try the egg carton.
That's awesome. So you're getting really creative. Like I love hearing all the creative ideas of like how to reuse things. That's great. What about
another really good use that you can do is you can cut up the egg carton and you can use the individual little cups as a place to grow seedlings. So you can put a little bit of soil into the cup, you put your seedling in, you let it grow, and then the really cool thing about it is when the seedling is ready to go into the ground, you don't have to take it out of the cup. You can just put the whole thing in because the cardboard will just break down and become compost for the seedling. So it's actually a really easy and clean way of propagating and planting seeds, which is pretty cool.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. What else do I have here? Okay, I've got this. What about this? You know, like sponge and things like that. What is
it?
Yeah, that goes to landfill.
Boo.
So we try to, if we can avoid and use like those kind of things that we can wash in the washing machine, that's a lot better. What about, this is like coffee cup. Do you know if that's recycled or not? Yeah, that doesn't go in the recycling, and a lot of people still think that it goes in recycling. So one day I actually had not a coffee but a hot chocolate, and I felt really guilty about it, but I thought, you know what, I can actually reuse this to plant seeds of coriander, and the cup was really pretty. So instead of putting in my landfill, I decided to use it as a little pot to grow seeds in there. Yes?
We have to go.
Okay.
That's okay.
That
I
was
think we're
great.
pretty close. I think we're pretty close to finishing now as well. So that's okay. It's good to see you. Did you
Nice
enjoy
to
the
see
session today?
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Xanthi?
So, another thing is on plastic. On cardboard. Sometimes the cardboard is lined with plastic, so you have to like tear it to see if it is, and if it
Just let it off.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a problem with some cardboard, and that's what exactly what's happening with that. It's just you've got like a thin layer of plastic to make sure so it's not gonna get wet when there's hot liquid in there, and that can happen with a lot of different items. So you need to be quite careful. about plastic, actually, one of the tests, I don't know if you've learned that at school or anywhere, but to know most of the time if you can recycle plastic or not, you can do a test of like, if it's soft plastic, you can actually like squeeze it like that really easily. And that soft plastic usually doesn't go in the recycling bin, but most supermarkets now collect those soft plastic. So that can't go in the recycling bin, but this kind of plastic, that can go in the recycling bin. So just that's a little technique to kind of like try to remember which type of plastic goes into what. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the end. I kind of wanted to cover a few things. I had one last slide, which was pretty much like, we already talked about that, but like, just what are other things in our daily life that we can help to kind of like use less resource? So we talked about food, we talked about like waste. Is there any other example about energy or water that you are doing at home to kind of like try to reduce your footprint on the planet Earth? Do you have any example? Yeah.
We're looking into getting solar panels.
Just to get
Yeah,
cool.
just for the farm all day.
Yeah, because it's a rental. Just leave it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
we'll see how we go because it's not straightforward, but yeah.
No, it's not particularly straightforward, but it's something that we could probably like. I think if we could make a, I don't know, might be an interesting exercise for farmers to look into in the future. Like we build a complete unit that's on a battery or something, then connecting it to solar and making sort of off-grid aquaponics. That could be quite cool.
Or even having like a small portable solar.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, if you're living off-grid and you wanted to have yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cool idea. I'm keen to explore it a bit more.
Yeah, actually, if you're making this happen, I think it would be super keen to know how you've done it and how much solar you needed to power it. I think that would be really good to understand, because I think
I really want to do it because I'm a renter, so this is you know, I'm limited in what I can sort of try when it comes to this, but also for that reason I'm, you know, like it might take a while to get it done and for it to happen. So
no, but that's a great idea. I think that's something we should also start thinking about even in the future.
Cool. Hey guys, can I just sorry, just a couple of things. One is, can I just thank you so much for these sessions, because like doing this stuff like in the family unit is fraught with conflict and tensions and stuff. So I want to just say as a parent, thanks for backing it all up. But also we did run out of battery before, so I didn't quite catch the answer to whether we can sort of catch up on last week's session, because Xanthi's actually quite keen to catch up on that, and obviously I am as well.
It's on it should be linked. Like I uploaded it to YouTube, so it's there. If you go into that resilience,
one of those Monday newsletter things.
Yeah, or if you go into the overview document, in the Facebook group, I can't remember if I've linked it there or not. If not, it'll be in this week's Monday newsletter as well.
Very
cool. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Very cool. We love our Saturday sessions. Thank you.
We love you guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining in, and have a lovely, lovely weekend. Keep the good stuff.
Awesome.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.